Over the weekend, my friend Declan and I were able to play in the Battlefield 5 open beta on PlayStation 4. Here are our thoughts on the beta. I'll start out by saying I'm glad the game is being delayed to November 20th. The beta was very glitchy, and that's to be expected with it being a pre-release build of the game. Not everything is going to be 100% perfect. However, Declan and I ran into many different kinds of bugs and glitches. Graphical glitches, lighting bugs, problems with the player camera flipping out while spawning, collision errors with people getting stuck in the ground, and other items. I won't go into too much detail because I know this is the kind of thing that DICE is already aware of and that they're fixing, so just wanted to lead out with that. Moving on from bugs, I will talk about the pros of the beta and then the cons. Declan, as I mentioned earlier, he's a big fan of the Battlefield games, so he understands the nuances of the games a little bit better than I do. So as a result, I asked him to help me out and give me some of his thoughts, which we will now be discussing. So what was good about the beta? The first thing that stood out to both of us was the balance in the game. It was pretty even between both sides. We never felt that we were being dominated by certain weapons or vehicles at any point, which is a good sign. Whether this continues into the full game when all the weapons and skills are unlocked will remain to be seen, but during the beta it felt pretty good. Speaking of the guns, the gunplay feels great. The sound effects are nice, meaty, and metallic sounding in all the right ways, something that Battlefield 1 did great as well. The kill notifications were satisfying, especially the plink of a headshot. All of the weapons are very detailed as well, which is something that is pretty much to be expected from DICE at this point. DICE changed the ticket system from Battlefield 1 in Battlefield 5, requiring that teams hold a majority of the points to slow down their life ticket depletion. This is a great change and it makes the game feel fairer than Battlefield 1 and allows for comebacks from the jaws of defeat to be more possible. One big change from the previous Battlefield games is that vehicles now have limited ammo. This is a great change in our opinion. It makes the vehicle gameplay more realistic, more strategic, and more rewarding as a result. It also cuts down on the vehicle camping that has historically been a problem throughout the Battlefield series. Going and resupplying the vehicles isn't as intrusive as I had initially thought it would be, and it feels like a natural evolution of the mechanics. The animations in the game were pretty great as well, when they weren't glitching out all over the place. The different player states that you see while moving, like the positions of your arms holding different weapons while moving, as well as the falling states like jumping out of windows, rolling, or slamming onto the ground, all add to the overall quality of the game. Even the bleed out animation, the inclusion of lying prone on your back, or even being physically blasted backwards from a big explosion are all really nice and welcome additions. The sense of scale in the game seems vastly improved as well. Buildings tower high, tanks look massive next to players. It makes the battlefield feel more grander, more so than it has in previous games. Now, time to talk about some of the things that we had issues with. The most apparent gameplay change affecting the pace of the game is that soldiers now have way reduced ammo counts when spawning into battle. For the most part, this isn't that terrible of an issue, but it seems that the assault class in particular seems to suffer more than the other classes in this regard. I mean, it is in the name, they assault, so you would think that they should run into battle with just a little more ammo than the rough 2 mags worth that they actually start with. Continuing off of this point, Declan feels that the weapon-specific ammo numbers shouldn't vary as much as they do. For example, the Enfield rifle in the Scout class has an ammo count of 30 rounds, while the K98 only has 15. I didn't take that much of an issue with it, but it does make sense. I mean, weapons within the same class should have pretty similar numbers of ammo. The grenade fuse timer feels just a tad too long. Both Declan and I agree that the fuse needed to be longer than in Battlefield 1 because everybody just spams grenades in that game. But it seems that in doing so, DICE swung the pendulum a little too far in the other direction. If they shorten it by just a second or even a half second, I think it would vastly improve and be almost near perfect. The time to kill in the game occasionally felt a little off. Declan attributes this to an inadequate player feedback, which I tend to agree with. Sometimes you will die normally, and other times it feels like you have been eviscerated without much warning. This could have been affected by network connectivity, but I don't think the impact would have been that substantial. And maybe this could even be a glitch that it wasn't displaying damage properly, or you weren't being notified of damage properly, which could be likely. I mean, it is a beta. On vehicles, while the gameplay changes are great, the physicality and control need some tweaking. Planes often felt a little too slow flying in the air, and tanks felt a little too light, almost like they were sliding on ice. The way they sort of bounce over cars and interact with objects is weird as well. Tanks should be crushing objects like cars, no problem, and they should be able to ram through walls easily. Granted, they can ram through the walls, but the environments just feel a little too stiff, and they cause the tank to not act the way you would think. The duration of the bleed out phase is very long, to the point of it being annoying. I'm not sure if it takes the same amount of time as the kill screen in Battlefield 1, but it feels much longer. Plus, the skip feature seems to only go a minuscule amount of time faster than the regular timer does, and this is even amplified by having a spawn timer on the next screen on top of that. So that should be shortened by a decent degree. That way the skip button actually feels like it's doing something, and also it'll improve the pace of the game, I feel. So, overall, those were some of our thoughts coming out of the open beta for Battlefield 5. What do you all think about the changes that are coming to Battlefield 5? Be sure to let us know down in the comments, and if you enjoyed, consider leaving a like and maybe subscribing if you want to see more videos like this. See you in the next video.